Okay. So, I am delighted. I'm starting now, everybody. So pay attention. Come back from whatever you're doing, whether it's your emails or you're getting your dinner ready or whatever. And although you can carry on doing that while you're listening to this. I am Liz Todd. I'm the director of the Institute of Social Science, and I'm really delighted to welcome you all today to the launch of Newcastle University's Gold membership of the Campaign for Social Science, and therefore with a closer relationship with the campaign and a much closer relationship with the Academy of Social Science. So we're absolutely delighted for this day to come. And we're delighted that you've all chosen to attend now. We know what stresses there are on everybody and demands in your time. I'm going to be introducing the speakers today and keeping everybody to time, which also means myself, but that's the harder thing. Just a few kind of housekeeping things. So this is being recorded. We're asking everybody to keep your mic off, please, unless you're speaking. We've asked you to get your video off, but actually put your video on if you want to. We'd be delighted to. It does give a bit of a sense, more of a sense of community if we have your videos on, but that's completely up to you. Normally, we would be having breakout rooms and discussions and a long time for that discussion. That's our style with the Institute. But today, that's not what we're doing because this is a celebration. We have some fantastic speakers. We are interested in your views and we will have a bit of time at the end for discussion. And please do put your comments or your questions or your views in the chat because we can save that. And when it comes for me to say something about the Institute, I will also be asking you for some ideas. So please put some of those ideas. And if you have any ideas about our relationship with the campaign or with the Academy that we should be furthering or anything we should do when you hear Rita speaking and you've heard Roger speaking, then please do also put that in the chat. Okay, so I will be talking about the Institute and why this is so important to us in a minute. But first of all, let me hand over to Professor Nigel Harkness, who's Pro-Vice Chancellor for the Faculty of Humanities. I will just introduce you a little bit further than that, Nigel, even though almost everybody here knows you pretty well, but you're not so well known to our two visitors. So I will just let them know that you have strategic responsibility for leading and managing a faculty with 9 academic units and 3 research institutes focused on collaboration across the disciplines, my own institute being one of them. And Nigel is a leading expert on 19th century French literature and culture. And I learned an awful lot more than I knew before about Nigel's work when he was part of Melvyn Bragg's In Our Time. That was just before lockdown. It seems a lifetime ago now, but honestly, it was only in February and it was pretty fantastic. So Nigel, over to you to really kind of kick us off.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for that. And you're right, In Our Time, I was actually in London in a studio, in a very small studio with 3 other people, which seems almost impossible right now. So thank you. I'm just going to do a very quick welcome to everyone to echo what Liz has said and probably just say a little bit about kind of Newcastle Social Sciences and just the campaign and the Academy for Social Sciences. But I want to start by thanking Rita Gardner, who's the Chief Executive for the Campaign for Social Science, for joining us, and also Roger Goodman, President of the Academy for Social Science. And I want to thank you both for being on the call and for being our keynote speakers. And I'm looking forward to learning lots from you. As Liz has made clear, you know, I come from the humanities end of our wonderful faculty, but it's a real, been learning lots about social science since I've taken on this role. I also do just want to, at this point, and we'll have plenty of opportunities to do it later as well, to thank Liz for putting this event together and gathering what a fantastic program of speakers, and also to Stuart, who's been involved in logistically supporting all of that. So huge thank you to both of them. I'm going to say we are very proud at Newcastle of our association with the Academy for Social Science. And it's great that we now have 31 colleagues who have been awarded the status of Academy Fellows of the Academy for Social Science, and that's gone up quite significantly over the past few years. And I want to thank everyone who's been involved in that and congratulate all the members, all our fellows from that Academy. So with that, it seemed like a logical step for us last academic year, to really think about partnering with the Campaign for Social Science, which is the campaigning arm of the Academy, really to enhance our institutional support for social science research, teaching and engagement work, and to signal our ambition to be a leading centre for social sciences research and teaching in the UK and beyond. And I think one of the defining features of our social science landscape at Newcastle is that while that term social sciences appears in the name of the faculty that I'm privileged to lead, the research and teaching footprint for social sciences is present right across our three faculties. And we've got my David's on the call right now. He's my counterpart in the Faculty for Medical Sciences, and Phil Wright will be joining us as well. And Phil is Pro-Vice Chancellor for the Faculty of Science, Agriculture and Engineering. You're going to hear from academics across those three faculties in the course of the next hour and a half or so. So that speaks, I think, to the breadth and the depth of our social sciences research and engagement work. And that's admirably led by the Newcastle University Institute for Social Science, which Liz Todd currently directs. And that has really as its function to support that social science research activity, to support colleagues at all stages of their careers with their research in social sciences, and to develop those internal and external collaborations that are so absolutely critical to the way in which we think about our social science research, and that defining feature of co-production within that here at Newcastle. I'm just going to end by saying that one of the other things that we're delighted to be able to work with the campaign on is the SHAPE initiative. So that's the initiative that's been led by the Campaign for Social Science, the British Academy and the Arts Council England. And many of you will know, of course, that the acronym stands for Social Sciences, Humanities and the Arts for People and the Economy. And I am told that that finally can also be environment, depending on, you know, how you want to think about it. So we've got, it's a bit like that bit like the STEM acronym. You can decide what that final M is. Is it maths? Is it medicine? The final E, you can decide, is it environment? Is it economy here? But one of the things there is that, of course, the SHAPE campaign is about developing much better public understanding of the value of arts, humanities and social sciences research, and to speak to that value, but to speak to it in a way which really complements STEM, that this is an initiative that you know, one of the values, the values underpinning it is really that we're working together with STEM colleagues. This is not SHAPE versus STEM, this is very much SHAPE and STEM. And I hope that what you're going to see over the next hour and a half is just how much that speaks to, you know, the way in which we approach things at Newcastle, that multi and interdisciplinary approach to the social, economic and environmental challenges that we face, approach from both SHAPE and STEM perspectives. So with that, I'm going to hand back to Liz.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Nigel. That was very helpful. And yes, both emphasising our links and social science being across the whole of the university is really important, and also the SHAPE agenda, which I know Rita is part of. I'm going to just share my screen just briefly. Do the technology. Doing the technology at the same time as keeping everything together is not challenging of my multitasking. Here we go.
You're a brilliant multitasker, Liz.
Thank you. So, as you just heard, that the Institute of Social Science with Nigel have been two of the key people behind securing our gold membership of the campaign. Why is this? Well, it's about how we see the importance of social science and what we know we'll value in our relationship with the campaign and the academy. And you're going to hear about that later. So I'm not going to go out over any of the things that I think Roger and Rita will be talking about, obviously. And I'm looking forward very much to hearing what they're going to say, and then for us to have an opportunity to respond to that. But first, just a few things about the Institute, which some of you will know, quite a few of you will know, but not all of you will know. And also not just about kind of what we claim to be trying to do in our aims, but also how have we responded in the pandemic and what has it started to look like that how we're sort of shaping up at the moment. And of course, that's going to carry on developing. And I mean, the first thing to say is that we are new. We're just about a year and a half old. And what you see on the screen now are our objectives, our broadly written objectives, which shows how important it is to be celebrating and making more visible our social science. That's across, as I said, it's across all three faculties. That it's also the impact, the value that we have academically and also in terms of society, but also that that the universities very strong ethos in terms of social science, social justice is absolutely at the heart of what we do in the Institute as well. And the excellence that we promote is not just mirroring seniority or level of promotion. We support excellence in emerging, vibrant research wherever we can. And that's not just it is in the very large bids and the large multi-million, multidisciplinary bids that we've seen in recent times, such as the Deltas bid. It's totally in those kind of bids. But it's also fostering detailed, painstaking, fabulous ethnography in individual researchers and all kinds of other fabulous individual, very robust social science and interdisciplinary work that we see happening by early career researchers and mid-career researchers and all the people that do that. So we don't, it's a very diverse picture that we foster, really. So we also have a set of strategic themes, which at the moment is gender, anti-racism, poverty, and co-production. And when the pandemic hit and the impact on people's lives, not just health, started to become clear, which actually didn't take very long, it was very quick, the dawning on us as to what the impact was likely to be. And then we've seen that playing out in terms of inequalities. We've seen how our social scientists have rallied, and I'm not just talking about their research, because of course that's been very difficult, but people have rallied with their practical support locally, regionally, and our focus on co-production, our long-term relationships has been the basis for continuing to work with those partners, to support them in all kinds of different ways, but also to continue to research with them. The large events that we put on when we first launched, so we had several large events in our first year, and we also launched a smaller talk social science, if I go now onto the kind of, so these are all the kind of events that we've had, and at the end of ones we're coming on to ones we're wanting to launch. Those large events obviously don't take place in the same kind of way and weren't appropriate, and they needed to be rethought as we got to grips with online life, with life under different varieties of lockdown, with a massive impact on students, on family life, on research, on everything. But interestingly for us, what we had started in the Institute, even though we were so new, has proved very useful, has proved extremely useful, kind of sort of paving the way for what we needed to be doing during the pandemic and how we're developing now and how we're working with the other two institutes, the Institute of Arts and Creative Practice and the Institute of Humanities. For example, you'll see here listed our Methods Hub, Methodologies at Newcastle, which is run by Natasha Mouthner, but supported by all three institutes. After a wait for us all to draw breath, we started to put on events, and we found numbers over 100 attending research using digital, ethics in using digital research, and archives, 3 separate events. Our different strategies have proved also very timely, as we observed major inequalities in experience based on gender and race in the pandemic. And in June, we put on 2 seminars, altogether of 10 speakers on gender, and then launched a website of anti-racism research and teaching. And we have more events planned on both of these areas coming up, and one that is already in the diary on anti-racist teaching. So we're trying to be helpful to put on events that really come at a time when people need it. So we're thinking teaching at the moment, and then we'll go on to research in a bit. We've suspended our funding awards at the moment, but we're going to think about those coming onto line again. and we suspended our challenge labs that the undergraduates did, whilst a massive effort of getting teaching has got underway. And other things have proved also coming to fruition in this time. For example, the previously funded research that we funded from the Institute, in fact, we funded it several years, including the Institute of Social Renewal that under Mark Schucksmith's leadership that we used to be. The funded research of Professor Suzanne Moffat from the Institute of Population Sciences has had some really good impact in the last few months, with the play reading of a play called Credit, at the same time as, well, followed by a panel, a high profile panel with Public Health Director from Gateshead and Patrick Butler from The Guardian and other high profile people. And that happened in September. So we're still managing to do things, and we're still kind of waiting to now see how teaching goes. And we've got various ideas we're doing. We're going to be focusing on launching, as at the bottom here, carry on researching, focusing on connections, so that people can start to get back their interactions with each other, the different discussions, different connections with each other, and skill development and well-being. But I now need to stop, and I'm going to come out of this now, stop sharing and hand over to, so it's now my great pleasure to hand over first of all to Roger Goodman and then to Rita Gardner. And Roger Goodman, Professor Roger Goodman, is a professor at the University of Oxford in the Nissan Institute for Japanese Studies and specializes in education and social policy in Japan. But is in this, he's here because he's the president of the Academy and has been so only just this year. And we're really looking forward to his leadership and the kinds of things he can tell us about what's going to be happening in the Academy of Social Sciences. So thank you very much indeed, Roger, for being able to give this time. I know you've got you're not able to stay for personal reasons, but you would otherwise. And so our condolences to you, and thank you very much indeed for being able to be here.
Liz, thank you so much, and thank you for that very generous welcome. And huge thanks to Nigel as well and colleagues in Newcastle for what you've done to set up this event. And I've been watching, Liz, your institute from afar, and I'm extremely impressed by how much activity you've managed to get off the ground and to continue actually during the current crisis. So I think Rita's in control of my slides. Somebody's in control of my slides because I didn't put them there, but that must be Rita. Thank you for putting those up. So if you are in control, Rita, can you go to the next slide? That's really impressive. This is great. Rita's in Suffolk. I'm in Oxford. This is the way the world is going. So let me just tell you a little bit about the Academy of Social Sciences. Many of you already know, and in fact, I've just seen on the participant list that John Goddard and Sue Scott are both with us. Now, it's possible there are two John Goddards and there are two Sue Scotts, but I very much doubt it. I can't imagine that there's more than one of either of them, in which case they've been core members, key members to the Academy for many years. And I was the chair of the Academy's Council before I became president, and they were there for the first 3 or 4 years and definitely kept me in order. So I'm pretty confident that they will be key players in the Newcastle community's relationship to the Academy, and thank you to both of them. So the Academy is there to promote social science in the United Kingdom for the public benefit. And that's it. That is our brief. And actually, that's quite a useful brief to have because it keeps us focused on exactly what we're trying to do. We're unique in several ways, in the sense that we know that as you know, we have 1,400 fellows. The process for appointing fellows is both very transparent and very robust. If you've been nominated and become a fellow, you've been through quite a process, I can assure you. If you tried nominating anybody, you'll discover even more how robust our process is in order to become a fellow of the Academy. We represent 46 learned societies. The number fluctuates up and down a bit. And in fact, the learned societies is the origins of the Academy. And that makes a community, we estimate somewhere in the region of 90, possibly closer to 100,000 social scientists who are members of those learned societies. So we represent a very large community across the piece. Our fellows are distinguished not just from the academic community, but from the practitioner community as well. Around 15 to 20% of our fellows do not actually operate within the university sector, but operate elsewhere. Using their social science. But those academics who have been nominated for fellowships have to be able to demonstrate that their work has impact beyond just academia. And I think that's what was really distinctive about the academic fellowship of the Academy. Of course, there is a very high bar for the academic quality of the work itself, but it's what the impact of that work is beyond academia is what we are looking for. The Academy can boast a very impressive network of contacts, both in and beyond the fellowship. And this is key. So we're able to talk to government, we're able to talk to opposition, we can talk to ministers, we can talk to members of the government machinery, bureaucracy, and so on. We have good contacts, and that's really important, particularly when there's a squeeze on budgets and there's a squeeze on government funding, to just ensure that the social science story is there and that people actually understand what really good, robust social science looks like and where they can find it. We take a very broad view of what social science means. We embrace, you won't be surprised to know, all the activities in the REFC panel, but we go beyond that. We put down social psychology here, we go into the health sciences and so on. But actually, I think wherever anybody, it's a bit like anybody, how you ought to define yourself. If you define yourself as a social scientist and you're doing top quality work and it's having an impact, you're a social scientist as far as we're concerned. And I think that's important. We don't limit ourselves to 19th century disciplinary boundaries. Many of our colleagues are working way across those boundaries, and I think that's important. And then, as we've heard earlier, Newcastle has one of the largest groupings of the fellowships. It says here Newcastle is in the top 15. I don't know who did the count of HEIs, but we have a very large number of Newcastle fellows. And that's not really surprising from my understanding of the history of social science in Newcastle. So I'm actually a product of the anthropology department at the University of Durham, way back in the 1970s. And even then, I remember being quite jealous of what social scientists were doing in Newcastle, because they were actually doing something with their social science. Don't tell my Durham colleagues this, and I hope it's all changed, but that was very much the view in those days, that the social scientists were working with the medics, they were working with the scientists, they were working across the boundaries, and that's what we wanted to do. And actually, I remember as a student in the 70s going to Newcastle to social science events to discover what you could actually do with your anthropology or your sociology. And I think Newcastle has always had that reputation, certainly, for combining the academic with the practice, but also crossing over disciplinary boundaries, and particularly crossing over between social science and natural science, and perhaps even more with medical science. So Rita put up a slide here of our strategy, which we've just, actually, I think it is now on our website. If you go up to our About page on the website, you will see that we've just published our strategy for the next, well, we've got the action point for the next 3 years, but the strategy itself is a longer term document than that. And the strategy is nested within 6 key objectives, none of which in themselves are perhaps surprising, but each of which collectively add to what I think makes the flavor of the social science, the Academy of Social Sciences position on what it's trying to achieve. So I won't go through all of these one by one, but essentially you can see how important for us the campaign is. The campaign is our ability to champion the social sciences. You know, it has its, you know, we recognize that the science community has had its own campaigns, very successful campaigns going back 2 or 3 decades. It was time for the social science community to do something similar. We advocate very widely, we lobby widely on behalf of the social sciences. We try and acknowledge and recognize quality within the field through our fellowship. And I think an important point I will talk about a little bit more is we're working really hard to widen participation and skills in the social sciences, to go back more and more into getting a concept of what social science is into the school place, for example. People in school know what science is, they're not quite sure what social science is. And there are some of the disciplines that we're really proud of, which really don't have any kind of recognition in schools. I'm an anthropologist, and you know, most students in schools, they're often not quite sure what anthropology is or archaeology is, and we need to get that recognition into the school system, as well as broaden the skill levels, both in university and elsewhere in our social science community. And of course, ultimately, we need to ensure that we have a sustainable future for the Academy itself. It is the only body in the UK that represents solely to represent social sciences. Rita, if you are in control, can you? Oh, you are. It's brilliant. So if we go on to our general approach, it is literally building on our USPs, facilitating, convening, and influencing as much as we can. And perhaps I'll make two key points from this slide before I finish. One is that we want to engage the fellows even more than they're engaged. Many are highly engaged